What's up, fellas? I decided to meet you down by the lake today so I can show you a couple of tips about fishing. Now, I can't teach you everything today, but at least I can give you a couple tips that'll get you started. So I've decided to teach you what we call a Texas rig. It is a rig that you use for a lure. This is not one that you would use for a live bait situation, but when you're using a lure such as a jig or a soft bait, this is the type of rig you use. So you want to make sure that you have yourself an offset hook. See, it's offset here. That's going to be important. You want to make sure you have yourself a sinker weight or a bullet weight is what I call it. These are going to be important for this setup, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you put your bullet weight on first, and you want to put it point side down. That way it can break through any of the debris or sediment that might be at the top of the water when you're casting. The point in this is to be able to get a little bit of weight on that line so you can cast out far enough to get to where the fish are. Today we are fishing for bass. It's important for you to know what you're fishing for so you can know what you're supposed to use to catch them. Now, if I were trying to catch a catfish or something like that, I might not use this setup because a catfish, they will hit fake bait, but most of the time they're gonna go for that real stuff, that stinky stuff, chicken livers, chicken hearts and stuff like that. But today we're fishing for bass and they're smart, and so we're going to be using lures. And so I've already put my bullet on and now I'm going to tie my knot. This is important. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll it back one time. I loop it under 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I go around one more time and up under. Pull it tight. Usually I would put a little spit on it to lubricate that line so you don't rip it, but due to COVID, I'm not gonna do that today. And then you wanna cut your tip. I don't have my pliers. Oh yes I do, here they are. These are my old pliers. Cut that tip, need to grab my lure. Here we go. And today I'll be using this speckled color gecko. I try to fish with stuff that you might find in the actual environment. So I'm gonna be using this speckled color gecko. You see it's got that paddle tail on it. That's gonna give it a lot of motion in the water. And how you hook this up is you stick it to the tip of your gecko, the very, very tip, and you pull it out immediately. You push it all the way down, turn it, and then you poke it up through his stomach. And there you have it. That is the basic setup for a Texas rig. And you can do this weedless, and that means it won't get hung up on anything. If you want to tuck it right in his back right there, it'll keep that weedless. But this is for the most part going to be weedless as it is. Let's get a cast and see if we can catch anything, because for the most part, that's all you need to know to get started. Just a little fella, but a fella nonetheless. Little teeth got hold to me. Sorry, y'all. One thing you gotta learn about me is I got a dirty hand thing. I don't like dirt on my hand. Well, it's not much to call home about, but at least you see it works. Be to teach a person to fish, they'll eat for the rest of their life. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Keep trying, y'all will get better. This is a little bass. I'm proud of it. Hope you are too. Hope you learned something. See you guys soon. Hey, did you know that everything inside of a fisherman's toolbox is called tackle? In fact, his toolbox is actually called a tackle box. So it is important that you get the knowledge that you can get from a fisherman's tackle box. And I'm going to give you some right now. 3 parts. The first part is the hook. You have to make sure you're using the right hook for the right fish. You can't just use any hook. There are specific fish that like specific hooks. So study that. A lot like life, you have to make sure you're using the right energy, the right qualifications for the right job. You have to make sure you're using the right hook. Use the right hook and I promise you'll reel in exactly what you were trying to reel in. Part 2, bait. You have to make sure you're using the right bait for a specific fish. For instance, bass like live fish, catfish like dead things. So you use the right bait and you'll get the right fish. You can't just throw anything out there expecting to receive a harvest. You have to make sure you're using the right thing. It can't be haphazard. It has to be planned, thought out, and organized. And that's how you get exactly what you're trying to get. And the last thing I want to tell you is this: make sure that you keep going. That's why they call it fishing and not catching. You won't catch on every cast, but I promise on some of the casts you will catch. If you're using the right hook and the right bait and you have the right amount of patience, I promise you'll catch. The Bible says in Galatians 6:9 to not get weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest. This is a lesson for every single one of us, not just you. We need to make sure that we are using the tools that God gave us for the jobs that He gave us as well. Make sure that we are using the bait, the stuff that people like to taste, the stuff that people like to receive, so that we can attract the right people to the position that we need them to be in. And the last thing we need to use is our patience, knowing that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. That means we can cast more than one time. Even if we don't catch every time, we know that if we keep on putting these good practices into play, eventually you will catch. And I promise you, you will be a world-class fisherman and person before you know it. Hey family, keep pushing, never quit. Let's grow.